so Southern music in the post-war era. This is where we're going to pick back up in chapter 7. Yep, still in chapter 7. So, we are talking a lot about radio. There are two main types of music that Billboard is coining for Southern music: rhythm and blues and country western. A lot of this was intended for the Southern audience. There were a lot of small stations in these rural areas, along with the Grand Ole Opry here is going to be coming on the air with a show that they had at this time. WDIA in Memphis was the first station that was kind of dedicated to playing music for a black audience. And I grew up in Memphis, and WDIA is still around. Here it is, and you can actually listen to it. But right now, I think they have talk radio.
I don't care what people do. I'm just worried about myself.
Yeah. So right now they're having on a talk show, but they do still play the same formatted music today. It is geared towards a black audience. WDIA, they're still going strong in Memphis, so I thought that was really kind of cool that that's still around. We're going to talk first about rhythm and blues. It was music that was intended for a black audience, and most of the musicians, almost all of them, were black artists. So we had something called a jump band. We have kind of urban blues, and then vocal harmony groups. Those are the main ones that we're going to talk about. The blues crooner style, Tin Pan Alley thing, that's actually there in the text, but I'm not going to spend much time on it. These are the three types of music that I really want to talk about. A lot of these independent labels did have a big effect on these musicians, because a lot of them were using the independent labels. And then we're going to talk about something called covering, but we're going to do that a little bit later. Covering is where the record companies would try to cash in on a second artist by creating a song that was originally featured by another artist. And we'll see this when we listen to Big Mama Thornton. But covering becomes a well-known practice, and of course they still do it today, covering. But the idea is that if you're going to cover an artist today, you're not going to create almost an indistinguishable version that's trying to copy the other one. You kind of put your own spin on a cover tune today is kind of the general idea behind that. But let's look at this first group called Jump Blues. It was the first commercially successful R&B group. And we're going to be listening to Louis Jordan and the Timpani 5. I'm actually going to be going through the chart on page 223 with this piece of music. And they were a big band style, but they were smaller. They would just have bass, piano, drums, and guitar, and a few horns. So not quite as big as the large big bands that might have been Frank Sinatra or some of the earlier just big bands like Glenn Miller that we listened to. It does have a boogie-woogie feel, and we're going to hear that, and a lot of the performances were kind of crazy. That was what it was really meant to portray. This Choo 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 Boogie that we're going to listen to was actually a crossover tune. It did very well outside of the R&B field. It became one of the first songs to be credited with the rise in rock and roll, actually, because of its popularity. It really kind of was a big hit all over the country, no matter what your skin color or what your age. It was really a popular piece of music. So let's take a listen to this, and I actually want to go through this chart with you on page 223 that explains the way the music is set up, because I haven't done that with you much. So we're going to take 3 minutes, 2 minutes and 26 seconds, or it's really close to 3 minutes, to discover this piece of music and its form. So here's the Timpani 5 and Choo 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 Boogie. So we're going to start out with an instrumental introduction. There's that boogie woogie blues piano. It actually happens to be in bass line in this case. There's verse 1.
tradition in the back of her hat. I just love the rhythm of the clickety-clack, and hear the whistle blowing, see the smoke from the stack, and pal around with democratic fellas named Mac. Take me right back to the track. Jack, choo-choo.
Okay, there's your chorus.
Take me right back to the track. Jack.
Piano solo. Sax solo. Oh, sorry, verse 2. Wrong place. Verse 2. Chorus. Now, sax solo. It is extended. All right. Verse 3. Live a life of riding in a beaten down shack. And I hear the whistle like the beat of the crack. I see the train a rolling when it's falling in jack. Cause I love the rhythm of the clickety clack. Take me right back to the track. Jack. Chorus. Choo 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 boogie. Woo woo. Woo woo choo boogie. Choo choo. Choo 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 boogie. Take me right back to the track. Jack. This is the instrumental tag at the end. Okay, so that's basically what the chart looks like on page 223, and you can always follow along and get a clear picture of the roadmap that these types of songs would then follow. As we move on down the list, we're going to talk about Chicago Electric Blues. This style is really interesting. Muddy Waters was really kind of the first one to permeate this new style. It came more from the Mississippi Delta, kind of those earlier guys like Blind Lemon Jefferson that we talked about. Chicago had a lively nightclub scene, and even though the rural blues tradition kind of died out, there wasn't a whole lot going on by World War II, the Chicago Electric Blues really took off at this time. So what Muddy Waters did that kind of made him interesting and new and like a pioneer in his field was expanding his group to a larger actual band rather than just a guitar. Now we have some electrified versions. We've got an electric guitar. Along with that, we've got a piano, a bass, what's called an amplified harmonica, which becomes known as a blues harp, but it's an electric version. It has an amplification device on the harmonica, and then a drum set. So it did have this influence on the British in the 1960s. That was interesting. But he did the bottleneck slide guitar technique just like Robert Johnson, but this time he's doing it on an electric guitar, so that was kind of interesting. And his voice, you're going to hear, is kind of a mixture of talking and singing, and then he uses his guitar, kind of like Louis Armstrong used his trumpet, to talk back to him. So it was... he has a really interesting style, Muddy Waters. I really like his music a lot. It's really grainy and gritty and fun to listen to. We're going to listen to this song, and you're going to hear these themes: loneliness, frustration, misfortune, independence, and of course, sex. But let's listen to Hoochie Coochie Man. It's a really fun song. There's that blues harmonica, amplify blues harp.
The gypsy woman told my mother before I was born, I got a boy child coming. He's gonna be a son of a gun. He's gonna make pretty women's jump and shout. Then the world wanna know what this all about. But you know I'm here. Everybody knows I'm here. Oh, you know the hoochie coochie man. Everybody knows I'm here. Black cat bone. I got a mojo too. I got the John the Conqueror. I'm gonna mess with you.
He's actually talking about voodoo there, so that's kind of cool. I'll let you listen to the rest of it on your own. It's a really fun song. You should listen to the whole thing. I really like his music, especially being from Memphis. Memphis went on to carry over some of this Chicago electric blues style. But I think his music is really dynamic and interesting, and the instruments that he chooses to use are quite unusual. So that's Muddy Waters. I really can't get out of this type of music without talking about vocal harmony, because this really also kind of moved us into the rock and roll market also. It really reminds me a lot of early rock and roll, but it does have that link to black gospel. There is a lot of vocal harmony that would also be black gospel. As a matter of fact, last week, that's what I put on your feature video of the week, was that black gospel, and it did have that very much vocal harmony sound. 60 Minute Man, it's got some kind of interesting lyrics, and I'm surprised they put something so naughty on the radio at the time, but they did. And so I kind of get a hoot out of that. But let's listen to the beginning of this so that you understand the style of vocal harmony. A very simple tune.
60-minute man. Look here, girls, I'm telling you now, they call me love and dad. I'll rock 'em, roll 'em all night long. I'm a 60-minute man.
So that's just a tiny little bit of that song. I just wanted you to get an idea of what vocal harmony actually sounded like. And to me, it's starting to sound a lot like rock and roll. But we're going to move on because quickly I want to talk about Big Mama Thornton. She was very well known for her crazy style. She was the daughter of a Baptist minister, but she was maybe a bit of a hard edge to her. There's a picture of her, and so she kind of had a rough and tumble life a little bit, but her music really shines actually because of that. I really like her music very much. It reminds me of kind of a cross between what would be jazz or blues and what would be kind of a mainstream R&B sound. So she was really an interesting lady. We're going to listen to her music along with the cover by Elvis on the next video. So we're going to go ahead and slide over to video number 3.